under which they might never sit. I am so grateful to each of you for the mission-based work that you do. Now I feel like the Academy Awards. How can I raise this? Can it be raised?
It can.
Looking back and looking forward the next decade, I'm also really grateful to the Leadership Council, the LC, that is doing its current work as very smart leaders, planning for the future. This takes intention and it takes hard work. 10 years the next decade, 10 years from now sounds so very far away. Believe me, it is not. I had the pleasure of working as a volunteer consultant with Northwest Girls Coalition in 2004 when the then LC Leadership Council was undertaking strategic planning. They were rigorously working on the vision, mission, and values for the coalition. We are, and the organizations for which you work, and the girls of all ages in our community are the beneficiaries of the work that was done several years ago. I didn't realize that those women would be here, like Jeannie Higgins and Anne. Am I missing anyone who was in that, in the 2000s? The work that you did set the stage for us. Goals not written down are wishes, and the then LC worked hard to frame the coalition's direction. And now it is that time to look forward again. So looking back, when I was introduced to Northwest Girls Coalition in the early 2000s, I was struck by the spirited, committed, relatively young leaders who were on the Leadership Council, and by the members whose commitment to girls in our community was second to none. One of those young women was the founder of Girls on the Run, Puget Sound. She's back there. Jeannie Higgins, who introduced me to Northwest Girls Coalition. As a result of those introductions and positive experiences, there was a domino effect, which I'd like to tell you about. My daughter at the time was about 15 years old. Yes, the wonderful girl teenage years. She became a volunteer coach, assistant coach for the Girls on the Run program. She would come home with her notebook and talk about how the media can have such negative influences on what we eat and what we wear. She was 15. She talked about how special it was that she was working with 8 and 9-year-old girls who had had very little opportunity to engage in sports comfortably for a variety of reasons prior to participating in this girl-serving organization. Involvement in one of the Northwest Girl Coalition's participating organizations, Girls on the Run, had a transformative impact on my daughter. And it doesn't end there. Her mom, me, became what is called a running buddy through the Girls on the Run program. At the time, I had never run a 5K. I had walked one, but I had never run. Nope, never. So there I was, spending time with a couple of very little girls and learning their stories about their foster families and some pretty horrific situations they shared as we trained together. Another transformative experience, and it was mine. Ultimately, I did the 5Ks. Ultimately, I became very confident, or I became nuts, because, and I'm not sure which, to take on Danskin triathlons and then a half marathon. Kaylin, my daughter, then became a Girls on the Run coach. She wasn't a naturally gifted athlete at all, and yet she gained enormous confidence, and she loved her girls. The story doesn't end there. Kaylin, my daughter, has since graduated college and now works in text, asking me for contact so that she might start a Girls on the Run program because it was so aligned with one of the project goals she was working on. Imagine so many years after her experience with one girl-centered program, and now she wants to pay it forward across the country in Boston. Community leaders plant shade trees under which we know we may never sit. Deborah is one of my mentors from afar. She founded a retreat center in Mexico in the 1940s. Several years ago, when she was 80 years old, she's 89 now and as vital as ever, I had the honor of hearing her talk about her philosophy of healthy living. Among the contributing factors she talked about, including service to community, she emphasized the value of spending time on a regular basis with people of all ages. In fact, people of every decade, 20s, 30s, 40s, you get the picture, 80s, 90s. At that time, I committed myself to do the same. In addition to forming a little hiking club with friends in their 20s to 70s, I am awake to the value of being in the presence and or the wake of typically women who are younger than I am, which I think includes almost all of you. People of all ages, and you too, and you too. Are there two men in here? People of all ages and being around them like a coalition, like Northwest Girls Coalition, inspires me to no end. It keeps me fresh, it keeps me open, it keeps me on my toes. It's one of the great values of a coalition like this. And I do look around, and I'm struck by the collective power of the Northwest Girl Coalition membership. My hunch is that many, if not all of you, are busy, perhaps stretched, possibly stressed. However, participating in a coalition like this will strengthen the safety net for all of us, along with developing individual leadership capacity and causing a ripple effect of every possible positive change. The next decade. The next decade requires your engagement now for that little one, for that little one. It requires stretch, and it requires stretching your time for the coalition, stretching your creativity for the coalition, and it requires that once the great ideas have been generated, that you stay involved in some way to make sure that magic, that great things can happen for you, for your girl-serving organizations, and for our community. What you will do today will impact the next 10 years. I know that. Where might Northwest Girls Coalition be in 2021? I've never said that out loud. 2021. I might be in a wheelchair with Jeannie Higgins rolling me around relay. You won't. You'll have to respect your elders. I am so grateful to the leadership that founded the Northwest Girls Coalition. Again, I didn't know some would be here. And I'm grateful to Kendra and the current LC Leadership Council for what you've set in motion tonight. Community leaders plant shade trees under which we know we may never sit. So I offer enjoyment as you're planting seeds and cultivating what develops. It's really important work that you're going to be doing to help plan for the next decade. I want to thank you in advance before I give you the teacher and me, your assignment. You have one. So my thanks in advance is that every work table will get red vines, lots of chocolate, and so we will pass them around. And your assignment is as follows. If you could wave your magic wand right now, what is the one thing that you would like the Northwest Girl Coalition to do by February 16th, 2012. What is the one thing, and you have yellow Post-its, the one thing that you would like Northwest Girls Coalition to do by 2012? Be specific. And what I am leaving you with is sprinkling magic as you proceed in your work sessions, and I thank you for your attention.